Welcome to the Be Your Soul podcast. I'm your host, Sky Bradshaw, and today we're exploring the theme of compassionate listening. Together, we'll nurture what it means to truly listen and create space for others while also feeling seen and heard. I'll be sharing insights, tools, and practical guidance to help you embrace new paths in compassionate listening. So be sure to listen through to the end for tips, tools, and guidance on how to do the work. In our Skylight segment, we are joined by Benji, a gifted singer-songwriter, producer, and multi-instrumentalist whose unforgettable sonic experiences have made waves in the music world. His music reflects life, love, and clarity in such a beautiful way. We can't wait to chat it out with him. But before we dive into the Unclouded Heart segment for spiritual messages of wisdom, let's invite ourselves to become present in this moment within our body, mind, and energy. Take a moment to invite yourself to take some deep and cleansing breaths. In through your nose and out through your mouth. And in through your nose and out through your mouth. And as you breathe in through your nose and out through your mouth, invite your mind, body, and energy to relax, 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 relax. Relax, 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 relax. Relax, 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 relax. And as we move into this space of complete relaxation, we open up our energies to the ancestors, loved ones, and friends to come together today to heal and guide us and lift us to the highest version of ourselves in the light of the universe. So we may hear what we need to hear, know what we need to know, connect how we need to connect, and be what we need to be for our highest and best good and the highest and best good of all involved as we open up space to give and receive. Compassionate listening. In a world filled with noise and distractions, it's easy to overlook the profound impact of simply being present for someone. Compassionate listening goes beyond just hearing words. It's about creating a sacred space where others can express themselves freely without fear of judgment or interruption. When we listen with compassion, we invite vulnerability and honesty into our conversations. Imagine how it feels when someone truly listens to you, when they lean in, make eye contact, and respond with genuine curiosity. It's as if a weight has been lifted. Suddenly, you are free to share your thoughts and feelings. Each time we are invited into conversation in this way, it nurtures our relationships and also fosters a deeper understanding of ourselves. Each of us carries stories and experiences that shape who we are. When we practice compassionate listening, we honor the unique journeys of others, validating their feelings and nurturing empathy. This simple yet profound act has the power to break down barriers, resolve misunderstandings, and forge connections that enrich our lives. Today, I invite you to embrace this practice. Create space for others to feel truly heard and seen. By doing so, we not only honor their experience, but also contribute to a more compassionate world. And since we know like energy attracts like energy, by leading with this example, we offer others to do the same for us. Let's take a moment to reflect on how we can integrate compassionate listening into our daily lives. It could be as straightforward as pausing to listen to a friend without formulating a response, engaging with a stranger's story while waiting in line at the movies, or giving our undivided attention to a loved one during a conversation. These moments of connection can spark profound change, both within ourselves and in our communities. Every act of compassionate listening invites us into the collective energy of the universe. At the heart of it all Everyone desires to feel seen and heard. When our authentic selves connect with another's genuine self through compassionate listening, the entire vibration of the universe elevates.
The Be Your Soul podcast is sponsored in part by Little Energies. Check out the Little Energies bundle pack, just in time for the gifting season, which includes 3 fantastic resources to help children connect with their chakras and nurture their natural energy flow. First, there's the Little Energies Oracle deck, a colorful and easy-to-use deck designed specifically for kids. Next, don't miss Sky Chakra and Her Energy Family, an engaging children's book that introduces young readers to chakras through vibrant illustrations and simple lessons. Also just released is the Little Energies Journal, filled with daily check-ins and prompts that support emotional awareness and self-reflection. You can purchase these resources as a bundle at a special rate or individually to help children grow and learn through their chakra system. Order your Little Energies bundle pack at www.littleenergies.com.
Today, we're here to talk about compassionate listening and how giving space for people to feel seen and heard transforms ourselves and our community. We're here with Benji, a gifted singer-songwriter, producer, and multi-instrumentalist whose unforgettable sonic experiences have made waves in the music world. His music reflects life, love, and clarity in such a beautiful way. He was a key member of Spillage Village, working with JID, Earth Gang, and others. Then his career continued to rise through his solo work. During the release party for his Love Gun EP, Benji launched his Blue Note initiative, inviting listeners to anonymously answer questions. He later shared these responses on Instagram, where many fans connected deeply with the replies, sparking a meaningful sense of community and relatability through compassionate listening. If you haven't seen it, you should go check it out on Insta. Avatar Benji, AvatarBenji. And I am so grateful to be here with you today and have you on the show. I am not only a big fan, but also was really in love with the Blue Notes project when you were doing it. I was like, this is such a good thing for the world. And so really excited. So thank you so much for being here.
No, thank you for having me. I'm very excited for this.
Yeah, I think your voice is going to be one lots of people need to hear about this. So we all have that one song that makes us, have a feeling or reminds us of a place in our life or creates an emotion or an experience in our world. And when it comes to stuff like that and compassionate listening, that idea of feeling seen, feeling heard and being heard, do you have someone who inspires you that really helps you create that in your music?
Yeah. Every time I would get a question, if you have like that one song or that one thing, there's like 3 that just immediately pops up. But specifically for this, and I love the question because it's something that allows for like self-actualization. And there are 3 songs that I quite literally cannot stop playing daily because of this. And I think because of the resemblance or the mirror that it has on my life, and I think life in general. The first song being the song called End Over End by the Foo Fighters, which is all about life being very cyclical and being at this point, coming around and being at this point again. And even as we sit here in this moment, there are happenings in my life right now that resemble points before that are just like, mind-boggling, frustrating, very happy, but also, just, how would I say it? Very reflective of moments I've had and points I've been in my life before, which should be encouraging because here we are again, right?
Right.
And then there's another song called Circles by Mac Miller. Yep. And I kid you not, when that album came out, and it's very hard for me to listen to albums after death. I personally don't agree with it, but because it's Mac and him being a Pittsburgh artist and an artist that I looked up to and in my case, musically resemble. I think just for his musicianship, but also just his independence in his artistry.
Mm-hmm.
It's the very first song on that album. I have not played another song on that project, and I cannot get past that song at all because it's a song that reminds me of being where my feet are.
Mm-hmm.
And, the very first line, this is what it looks like right before you fall.
Right.
And I'm like, oh man, you're speaking right to me. Like you're really talking to me because this is what's
Yeah.
happening. And every time it comes on, it's at a pivotal moment, that just like,
Mm-hmm.
yeah, this is happening. This is real. This is life. This is supposed to happen because if you want to move on, you have to get through this.
And it's forward circles, not
Exactly.
one singular circle. It's like the wheel on the car.
Exactly.
I don't know if you
Exactly.
know, but I do that sequening as well, like sacred art sequening. And I worked with Mac Miller, and each time that I sequin, I call in the energies and really like work with that specific energy, like in depth, and
Yeah.
got to be with him like to a point where I feel like he's one of my soul friends, even though I never met him on the planet. But if somebody asked me, honestly, that song would be one of the songs that I would answer this question with as well.
Like it's
incredible.
It's incredible. And it's one of those things, it's one of those songs, and from somebody that I wish I had the pleasure of meeting on this planet.
Mm-hmm.
And I've met everyone around him. It's one of those things that forces me to look in the mirror or just find something that like has a reflection that I need to look at myself and see where I'm at and stop everything and just be at the point. And that's one of my favorite songs of all time, period. And the third song is is Ain't It Fun by Paramore. Because at the same time they have the bridge, don't go crying to your mama when you're on your own in the real world, because you're on your own in the real world. And I'm like, man, because I talk to my mom at least as often as I can, but I'll complain, I'll tell her what's happening, and I'll vent and this, that, and the third, and a lot of times I wish I could go home, and kind of retreat, but I can't. This is what I signed up for. This is the life that I chose, and these are the happenings because of it, consequences or blessings. You got to have them both. And so that song is a good reminder in the morning for me that like, if this is what you asked for, so don't call your mom just cause, you don't like it and look to retreat, work through it, go through it. And it's not to say don't call your mom at all.
Right.
But you're in the real world now. The safety net is gone and all bets are off. It's you. It's all you. And so, it's on you. It's your responsibility to be as transparent, be as responsible as possible, be as accountable as possible, be as positive as possible, honest, and as humble as possible too, through it all. And so those three songs in particular, because those are three of my favorite artists and two of my favorite bands ever, that inspired me to be that transparent and honest in my music, because my whole artistry is to help people.
Right.
And if for me to help is by transcribing the happenings in my life, then now that it becomes a shared experience for other people and for people who are listening, because they didn't know that somebody else could be going through the same exact thing.
Right.
At that point. And so that's kind of the torch that I took up to bear, the cross that I took up to bear. But I think it's for a purpose, and it's my responsibility to do that, not even just for entertainment's sake, but literally to help people and to save lives. So those three songs are powerful for me in order to just keep that going.
And I think that what you were just saying about how you decided to live your life with that integrity in order to invite other people into that integrity is that last song that you were talking about, which is like what we put out, like what we tell the universe that we're trying to create, what we ask for, not like in a I want $1 million, but in a way of like, I would like to the opportunity to help people in this way. I would like this. And when we present that out, it does reflect to us. And,
Mm-hmm.
life doesn't happen in a vacuum. So
Nope.
if we want to help people who are struggling, it doesn't mean that we have to be on the ground struggling ourselves, but we have to know struggle. We have to
Yeah.
have experienced struggle.
Yeah.
The healer who can relate to the healed or the people they're healing is
Mm-hmm.
definitely a stronger camaraderie in the world, because when people see role models who have been through the same thing they've been through or are feeling the same way that they are, or and also are doing the work to overcome and work in the and lift up, then it gives everybody permission to do that. It gives
Absolutely.
everybody to say, like, yes, I have this heart that is full and damaged at the same time. And I'm being the best version of myself I can right now. And so it's
1,000%.
a real beautiful space.
Yeah, and it's going along those same lines. Like, you think if you ask God, for courage, does He give you courage, or does He give you an opportunity to be courageous?
Right.
If you ask for $1 million, does He give you $1 million, or does He give you an opportunity to work?
Mm-hmm.
Same thing with strength. Same thing with love. It's all the same. And so, me and artists alike, and just people sharing their stories, gives other people the opportunity to see themselves in other people, so that they can work up the opportunity in themselves to, be courageous, be strong, be accountable, be responsible, be honest, be loving. And it's a beautiful thing when more and more people kind of see that and allow themselves to be as transparent and be vulnerable. We just have no idea how many people we affect on a daily basis. And even for me, I know I tour and I perform and I'm in front of people, and but that amount of people, that number pales in comparison to the actual reach of
Mm-hmm.
energy, that exudes from me, and how many people that reaches across the entire world just by being myself, because of that. But it's a beautiful thing, and so it's
It
something
really
I feel really,
is.
really good about.
And when we move that into the compassionate listening thought process, it can really create space for real meaningful relationships and personal inner growth. Because when we're listening to just hear and be present, then something awakens inside of us too, I think. And,
Uh-huh.
it awakens in the other person. And there's this deeper flow of vulnerability on both sides.
Yeah.
So if you had advice for someone who was struggling with that vulnerability, or who may have a hard time even letting themselves be seen in life in that way, they have a like should be, or
Mhm.
kind of thought process, what would your advice be to like kind of help them just be themselves and be present, be vulnerable?
Shoot, I think the first thing I would say is, and I say this a lot, there's 8 billion people on this planet and rapidly growing. And so, how how amazing is it that you're the only one like you
Mm.
on this planet, in this universe, right? Like, that is important, that's special. And so, in a way, it's offensive to the creator of all of this to hold that back from
Mm-hmm.
everyone, regardless of what it looks like from someone else, which is not our responsibility, regardless of how someone else may feel, which is also not our responsibility. And I'll kind of rephrase that in a way. If we're being our true selves, then we are not responsible for
Mm-hmm.
um, how someone else receives it,
Mm-hmm.
essentially. And it's a daily challenge. And I do have to say that respectfully, because with all that has been presented to us over time, and now with technology, everything is so in your face. and we can see all the negative things, and we can see the potential backlash that could come from whatever you might present to the world, thanks to the internet and social media. And yes, that can be very discouraging, but it's so much more important that, you know, we allow ourselves to be ourselves for other people. And that comes from realistically being able to listen, to sit and be open to what's around us and what's in front of us in real time and in real life. And so my advice is like, it's one of those things you just have to like go for it. It's one of those steps off the ledge that looks like a ledge, but realistically, it's just another step forward. And so you're not necessarily falling, you're flying, right? Or you're learning to fly. But it's just something that you can't be pushed to do. You have to do it yourself, right? You have control of your body, you have control of your mind, you have control of what you speak, you have control of your energy, and you have control of what comes in and how you pass it through yourself to pass it out. And so it is a daily routine.
Yeah.
That you continue to learn and grow how to be unconsciously yourself, day by day by day, minute by minute by minute. And it's not something that you just snap your finger and then boom, okay, now I'm, you know, the perfect version of me. And, you know, because when you do open yourself up to that, right, anything can come in, but rightfully so. Because if, like I said before, if you ask the universe and you ask God to be strong, well, he's going to put some heavy stuff in front of you for you to lift. You know, you're not just going to wake up and be able to bench 500 pounds just because you asked for it. You know, you still have to do the work. And we all still have to do the work.
Yeah. And I believe like we know knowledge is power, right? And a lot of times when we think about that, we think of exterior knowledge. Like, what do I need to know about this topic?
Yeah.
But when we're vulnerable, when we're authentic, when we're our true selves, what that really means is we know we have the knowledge of self. And when we self-trust and we have self-love and we have self-confidence and we know ourselves so well that we are empowered by that knowledge, then it becomes easier to step into those spaces where we're being vulnerable, where we're saying, you know, I don't know if people will like this or not, but this is where I am right now, or I don't know how this will be received. I'm going to present it. And that comes from like a deep self-knowing. And if we can tune into that little by little, because trust is built, you know, relationships are built even with ourselves, then we give ourselves that power to be able to say, you know, like, I feel like everyone's an artist, you know, like it just by default, we have it in ourselves. And a lot of people separate themselves from that. But what I think is the kind of difference, not to be measuring or judging, but like the difference between an actionable artist and a closet artist is that vulnerability and trust in knowing ourselves.
100%.
And so that's where, you know, I think the work always is, or the trust always is like, if you know yourself, then if somebody else has a wrong perception of you, you could just be solid. You're okay.
You're okay. It's fine. And you can't, again, there's 8 billion people on this. That's 8 billion perspectives.
Right.
Right. There's no two of the same. So somebody somewhere is, I forgot who I heard say this, but regardless of how you think, somebody somewhere is going to passionately disagree at all times. It never fails. And that's just how life is.
And you're the only expert on you. So
boom. Exactly.
Like that's the period on the end of the sentence.
And and then the trust you start building with yourself, the more you come into that self-realization, allows you to be solid, like you said. And it's okay if you are 10 toes down on who you know yourself to be. That's the whole point of all of us being here. We all have to coexist regardless. But that helps so many people try to learn and find that within themselves versus just trying to mimic and copy what is seen and heard every day.
Right.
There is such a beautiful, how would I put it? Mm,
Mosaic.
yeah, like you too are a muse. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I mean? To somebody else, whether you know it or not.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but that only comes about with you being as authentic and as honest and as real as you were created to be.
Yeah,
Um,
absolutely.
yeah.
So, speaking of all of that vulnerable beauty in that space, I think things like your music and the initiatives like the Blue Notes creates that invitation for people to be their authentic self or them to share in whatever, way. So, how do you see community strengthening or building, especially in the music industry and in
Mhm.
other spaces, that I do think there has been a shift towards that open invitation to be more authentically self in that way.
Yeah. It's funny the way the music business industry, whatever you want to call it, has kind of start turning out to be right now favors artists and the communities that they've actually built versus the artists and the fabricated fans that exist from what was pushed or basically created for them.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and
Cherry pop.
yeah, it's one of the things that I love about my fans and community. And I personally, I hate the word fans, and they know that.
Right.
I hate it because I do think it is an actual community.
Mm-hmm.
With me and my Discord, we talk often throughout the week. We check in on each other. We celebrate each other. We go through things. I'm very open and honest about what's happening with me and my music, but also me and myself as a person and my mental. And that's important because again, as an artist and someone that they're looking to build a bridge of trust with, that allows them to also kind of loosen up and be vulnerable.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the strength of community. It's trust and it's vulnerability and it's honesty, but it's also accountability,
Mm-hmm.
And so in that sense, I see it growing more and more and more and more with the opportunity for artists to take that lead, to essentially building a church
Mm-hmm.
in a way where we have common ground, we have a common place to talk, to speak, to interact, to vent, to worship in a sense,
Mm-hmm. Sacred
to
space.
sacred space, to fellowship, to pray, to be on the same frequency, to tune ourselves to each other. And I believe that's where, I mean, regardless of the business and the industry of business, regardless of that, I think that's always been a necessary, or I'll say a necessity of being an
Mm-hmm.
artist because we're the lens.
Mm-hmm.
We speak for people. We speak for a lot of people, and we are essentially a voice for so many who are voiceless. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
and and I'm encouraged by that fact just because of what the world can end up being when there's that much harmony going on.
Mm-hmm.
And it's okay to have a community over here that has no relation to this community over here.
Mm-hmm.
Um, but it's nice to know that it exists. So too can we exist.
Right.
Um, and I really find beauty in that. Whereas, okay, instead of trying to appease the masses or millions of people all at once, I can really only focus on the couple hundred that are right in front of my face. And as we continue to bond and strengthen ourselves, more people will come because they'll
Mm-hmm.
find an attraction to it and tune themselves to this particular community over here that aligns with them. Um,
Right.
as opposed to, not even as opposed to, but they can also do that over there.
Exactly. It's the and, not the or.
It's the and, not the or. And that's very important to, again, going back to just authenticity and being yourself.
Mm-hmm.
Like we can be a part of multiple things, and it doesn't have to be this or that. It can be this and. Uh,
Mm-hmm.
you know what I mean? And so I find great responsibility in that, just to be kind of an example of what an artist can do with their community, with their fan base, and continue to grow communities all over. Because I don't think we're meant to just affect one place
Right.
at a time. I think we can span across multiple places and frequencies and happenings in time. And so I give I give a big shout out to my Discord and my community that kind of champions me to do that, but also encourages me to always be vulnerable, always be as authentic and as real as possible because of how much it helps. And then we as a community can be an example for other communities as well.
I agree. And the impact of having such a deep community, my papa would say it's not the rock, it's the ripple. And so, it may seem like if I'm focusing on these 100 or 200 people, then I'm limiting if I have a limited mindset. But if I realize I'm making the deepest connection with these people as possible, and then they expand to 10 people, and then that expands to 100 people, and that expands to thousands of people, then it isn't just, if we're counting bodies, it's 200, but if we're counting energetic impact or the way that we tune into the world, it's infinite.
Yeah.
And that's what happens when you go into sacred, vulnerable, authentic space. That's what happens.
Absolutely. I think like honestly, you can't put it any better than it's not the rock, it's the ripple. But like we ourselves can't separate into 10 people. You know what I mean? Like we have to be as solid as possible and allow our people to throw us in different places so then the ripple expands. You know what I mean? But it requires us to be, the blip on the radar so that somebody can see us somewhere and then find their way to us, as opposed to throwing ourselves around and trying to be in front of, this, in front of that, in front of that.
And sometimes we feel spread too thin when that happens. So it's hard to be our authentic self because we're like spreading too thin in those cases. So I think those compassionate, connective, authentic connections are the best.
Yeah.
So when it comes to compassionate listening, anything else you think we left out you want to say?
It's very important. Over the last couple of weeks, it's been hitting me hard to just be still and listen, not to rush to speak or have an answer or even have a solution. I think it's been inherently necessary that for clarity's sake, that we're supposed to listen and sit with questions over time. And in my opinion, that's like one of the core principles of compassionate listening, because it's not just listening to another person, but it's listening to the surroundings. It's listening to yourself internally. And also, like, weird way to phrase it, listening to your past to kind of like guide you along the way as well. And it's been very educational for me and very informative for me that, like, okay, just because life has proposed such a question does not mean that an immediate solution is either necessary or available.
Right.
But the point is, over time with this question, how can you tune your ears, your mind, your body, and your mouth to receive and transcribe what actually is supposed to be received? And in these 2 weeks, I promise you, I have been hit with some of the hardest questions that, again, seem to just keep finding its way around. And I think the point, again, is now not to find the answer, but to sit kind of with the why of it,
right,
and move forward accordingly. And like you said, like, it's a wheel. It's not just a circle.
Right.
So there's motion. It's forward motion, and if it goes backwards, it's backwards motion.
Exactly.
But either way, it's from one point to the next and back around. And so I think that, along with compassionate listening, is very important. It's imperative that we take time every day, whether it's through meditation, whether it's through prayer, whether it's just quite literally just sitting still, that we just stop moving and listen before we act, before we react, before we speak, before we dial that number and make a phone call and cuss somebody out, or you know what I
Right.
mean? Like there's many, so many things become revealed from that versus, rushing to judgment, rushing to a solution,
Hmm.
or anything like that. So,
We've been working on that as a universal collective. And,
mhm,
and one of the things I try and remind people is like, we can reply, react, or respond, and we're in other people's energies. Or we
yeah,
can have choice, action, and decision, and we're in
hmm,
our own energy.
there you
And
go.
oftentimes when somebody, says X, Y, and Z, we're immediately thinking like, what's my reply? What's my response? How do I react to that? Instead of going like, let me take that moment, come into
Yeah,
myself, see how I feel about that. Do I have a
yeah,
choice, a decision, an action that I would like to make? And
yeah,
sometimes action is inaction. It just means, no,
hmm,
I'm just pausing. That's all that I've got right now.
yeah. And kind of going back to when we did the Blue Notes, and offering that space for someone, not necessarily to speak, write it down, and to kind of put your story up into the world. And in a lot of cases, I respected the fact that people responded,
Mm-hmm.
and I love the fact that they were willing to do so and to offer their, a window into themselves, to the point where I was a little bit skeptical to present it, to social media. And I kept it anonymous. Nobody
Mm-hmm.
put their names on anything. I knew some of them because we had started it in New York at my listening party for my last project, and so I knew some of them, but a lot of them I had never met before, and it was beautiful. But that space was there for me to not say a word,
Mm-hmm.
to not speak, to not judge, to not, and there were so many stories. There were a lot of similar stories. There were some things I've never seen or heard of before from somebody. And so it's like this also exists. But I again had to shut everything off in my life, in my world, to allow that space and to allow this story to be present and exist in my life. And I thought it was incredible. And since that point, the stillness kind of just like allowed itself to be in my
Mm-hmm.
life, that like there's so many happenings around me that I'm missing because I'm trying to like narrow things
Right.
down and have this tunnel like vision, or whatever. And I'm tuning so many things out that are so necessary for you to know exist. And so I appreciated, my manager and myself for coming up with this idea, just allow people to speak. And that's how communities end up
Mm-hmm.
getting built, but also strengthened, because there's an allowance of self, of other
Yeah.
selves into this space that we're all sharing. And so I'm going to do that again at some point.
I think
But
it was
it's
beautiful. It's one of
yeah,
my
but it still starts, with me and allowing myself to do that in music so that people
mm-hmm.
still feel the need and the safe space and have the courage to also share themselves too.
Absolutely. So I ask every guest three questions. And the first one is, what do you think it means to be your soul? Which I think you've probably been talking about this whole entire time, but
To be your soul is, yeah, it's to be yourself, but to be your light, you know.
Mhm.
Um, it's in a way I think we move so far away from ourselves over time just because of, you know, like when we're a sponge,
Mhm.
so many things come in to us and we absorb so many that we kind of forget that, there's a release of this tension or of this
Mhm.
absorption that's also supposed to happen purposefully. And so to be your soul quite literally is to be your creation, to be your intention, and to be that for other souls that exist. And it's deeper than just the self, right? I think the self comes with consciousness. The soul is unconscious. Like
Right.
it was here before we ever had a thought. We were in existence before we ever formed a thought of our own.
Mhm.
And so to tap into that ourselves, allows us and pushes us to go deeper than ourselves and within. And it's something of aura, right? Like the light that just naturally shines as itself, without having to be poked or pushed or anything like that. And so that's what I would say it means.
I love that. So, what is one of the things that you do every day, no matter what, to get self care in?
Ooh, I sit in silence a lot, but it's the first thing in the morning that I do. When I wake up, I don't touch my phone. I just sit there, and a lot of times, you recognize the kinds of thoughts that just naturally pass through your mind.
Mm-hmm.
Some things that can scare in a way, but I think we should be aware of. But also, it just gives like my body some time to just tune back up. It's like tuning. Whenever I tune my guitar, like you have to listen to it before I look at my tuner that tells me I'm in tune. There's like a feeling. There's a literal vibration to it. Like,
Mm-hmm.
oh, this feels right. That feels right. That feels right. That feels right. Okay, tell me how close or how off I am to that. Then I look to technology for that. But giving my body that space and that time to be on its own and not forced to do anything or move. And I think that's, for me, that's like the best self-care that I can give myself. And then outside of that, I love to golf. So
Nice.
I gotta find time to either, go to the driving range, go to Top Golf, go to the golf course and just swing and just have that moment in nature to myself, and also try and better my last score.
Nice.
I love golfing. It's one of my favorite things to do.
Awesome. I could never
Yeah.
get into golfing. Like, it's very frustrating to me.
It is frustrating. It is very frustrating.
I
But
was like, no, I can't do this. So, what does centered and balanced look like in your life?
mm, centered and balanced is, man, okay. I think now being centered is just being aware of your feet, and I think that probably constitutes balance as well. But
Mm-hmm.
we have back home in Pittsburgh where our three rivers meet, we call it the Point. And if I'm not mistaken, I don't know if it was back in the 70s, but there was at some point in time the Dalai Lama came and meditated right there, and he called it the center of the universe.
Nice. That
And
just gave me
so
chills.
where I think all points within ourselves meet, you could say the heart, you could say the mind, the spirit, the soul. Whenever we're aware of where we are, that's being centered and calling attention to that, as opposed to ignoring it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, I'm just here, just cut. We are here.
Yeah. I call it human being instead of human doing.
Yes, 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 100%. And then from there, balance is calibration of that
Mm.
awareness. Okay, we are here. Why? How did we get here? This. Okay, what do we do with that information? Anything? Nothing? And so just calibrating yourself, I like to think, and there's a lot of information on the internet, some true, some not, but, I see the numbers of my birthday every day at
Mm.
some point in time. And for me, I like it to believe that I'm either doing something right or that I need to recalibrate and get
Mm-hmm.
myself back on track. And so calling myself to awareness and calling myself to center allows for recalibration if necessary,
Right.
or just the attention of doing exactly what you need to do, and you're doing exactly what you need to be doing.
Mm-hmm.
Keep doing that.
That's beautiful.
From being centered comes balance,
Mm-hmm.
and they're both hand in hand, in my opinion.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. This was such a great
Yeah,
conversation.
that was
So, can
amazing.
you shout out a couple things you want people to know that's either coming up for you or,
Yeah. So, Love Gun 3, the last EP of this trilogy, this, in my opinion, incredible trilogy, but also this headache of a trilogy is coming out in November. I'm very excited about it. I feel I feel recharged about this entire process over the last calendar year from the first one. And it feels really good to just one be dropping music again regularly, and feeling like I'm the right version of myself at this moment,
Mm-hmm.
when it comes to that. So I'm very excited about it. And oh well, we're dropping. So I just dropped the single "Gimme." We're dropping another song. It's called "Good Cooking," featuring Earth Gang, and so I'm very excited about that coming out. That'll be before the project comes out. And so it's nice to still have that relationship with Earth Gang and Spillers Village and everybody over all this time. So that's coming. And yeah, just more projects. Me and my brother, Christo, we're in the very beginning stages of working on a project together,
Exciting.
as a brother duo, which I'm very happy about and excited for, because he's been so successful, but such an inspiration to me. Just as a mentor, as a brother, as a friend, as a peer. So I'm very excited for that to turn into whatever it turns into, and to get that out hopefully sometime in 2025. And yeah, there's just a lot of things I'm gonna just start trying my hand at. I think at this point in time in my life, I just want to try things,
Mm-hmm.
but also not just for the sake of trying, but for the sake of being more in all of me,
Right.
and not just trying to confine it to this one little thing to either sell records or whatever. And so I'm very excited to just see what avenues and ventures I end up in.
We are too. So so where do you want to shout your Discord? Do you want to shout your website? How do you want where do you want
Yeah,
people to come find you?
definitely want to shout out my Discord. It's called the Speakeasy. You can find a link to that on all my socials, on Instagram, on well, I don't have enough followers on TikTok yet, so I can't share links. But
Let's make that happen.
yeah, all my socials are Avatar Benji. It's my favorite cartoon of all time. I have it tattooed on my hand. So you can find me on all socials there, and a link to my Discord. We would love to have anyone, be a part of it. There's room for everybody, all kinds of bodies. It doesn't matter, all walks of life. We love to have you. We love to share more space with anybody that wants to be a part of something that's growing, something that's authentic, something that is beautiful, and I think something that's necessary. And so I want to shout them out because they started it. I didn't. I want to do a Discord and I want all my fans to be a part of it. They started it and presented it to me, and it was just something that I didn't expect. But also, I think that's just a testament to the souls that exist, that
Mm-hmm.
want to share space together and want to exist together and want to have a safe space for people to be themselves and be human being, right? Like,
Mm-hmm.
and so I owe them a lot because it also gives me space to be myself and vulnerable and vent and, things of that nature. So yeah, you can find a link to that on all my socials. I want to give a shout out to my family because their support in allowing me to just like peruse this life in the manner that I have has been nothing short of just amazing. And I owe my success to come to them and just allowing me to be myself and figure myself out along the way. And shout out to Little Bird,
Yeah, Little Bird for putting us
yeah,
together.
putting us together. She is such a beautiful, beautiful young girl who just really I don't if you the word genuine in the dictionary should have her face,
Yeah.
next to it. And I'm happy to wear all the angel bracelets that I still have every single one that she's ever given me, minus one because I broke it. So that's my fault. But I still have about seven of them since the very first time we met. And I'm very excited for her and just how she's going to continue to grow
I know.
into
And she has
herself.
such
And
beautiful role models like you guys to look up
no,
to, which is amazing.
it's absolutely amazing. She's a light. She's an absolute light, and so I'm very appreciative of her and for you, and for Jenna as well, for just
Mhm.
your whole family, allowing me to be a part of it,
Yeah,
and just
we're
been
grateful.
someone to to be in that kind of position for her and for you all. So I'm very thankful for you as well.
Well, we're super thankful for you, and we're thankful for all the listeners who are here today to be able to enjoy this goodness too. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Appreciate it. It was a great talk.
It was beautiful. Thank you so much.
The Be Your Soul podcast is also sponsored in part by Tarot by Sky. This holiday season, consider giving the gift of healing with our gift certificates for tarot and energy healing sessions. These thoughtful certificates allow your loved ones to explore their inner wisdom and connect with their energy in a meaningful way. Whether they choose to experience a session in office, virtually, or by phone or email, they'll find guidance and support tailored to their needs. These sessions offer a unique opportunity for self-discovery and personal growth, making them the perfect gift for someone special, or even for yourself. With gift certificates available for any Tarot by Sky service, you can easily choose the ideal option for anyone on your list. Share the gift of insight, healing, and empowerment this holiday season. Visit www.tarotbysky.com to purchase your gift certificate today.
In this segment, I offer tools and guidance that I have found helpful in my practice, and maybe you will too. So grab that trusty journal and let's get to it. We all have a tendency to want to help those around us, but sometimes our desire to fix things can create unintended consequences in our relationships. In this exercise, we'll explore how our listening style impacts our connections with others, distinguishing between compassionate listening and the urge to solve problems. By taking the time to reflect on these patterns, we can cultivate healthier interactions and foster deeper understanding. In relationships, the fixer is someone who often tries to solve the other's problems instead of simply listening. While the intention is usually to help, this behavior can lead to various issues, such as diminished autonomy, invalidation of feelings, and resentment. It's essential to recognize when you're listening compassionately and when you're falling into the fixer role. This journaling exercise will guide you in identifying these patterns and help you make positive changes for healthier interactions. The first step invites us to compare our listening styles. Create 2 columns in your journal, one for your fixing mentality and one for your compassionate listening. Think of 3 recent conversations for each category, noting how you felt when you responded. Let's look at fixing first. Describe a situation where you jumped in to offer solutions instead of listening to someone's thoughts and feelings first. Now, recall a time when you tried to fix a problem that someone didn't ask you to solve, leading to frustration on both parties. Next, think of an instance where your desire to fix things caused you to overstep, taking the lesson away from the intended learner. Now let's tune in when you use compassionate listening. Describe a conversation where you focused on understanding someone's emotions without offering solutions. Now reflect on a moment when you encourage someone to express themselves fully, making them feel heard. Lastly, let's write about a time when you asked open-ended questions to help someone explore their thoughts and feelings. Step 2 helps us identify the impact of each of these listening styles in our life. In this step, we're going to reflect on how your listening style, whether fixing or compassionate, affects your interactions with others. Understanding the impact of your behavior can motivate you to shift towards a more compassionate approach. Use the following prompts to guide your reflection. Let's take the feelings of the other person into consideration. When you listened compassionately, how did the other person respond? Did they seem relieved, supported, or appreciated? Take note of any specific reactions or body language that indicated their emotional state. When you tried to fix their problem, how did they react? Did they seem frustrated, dismissed, or resentful? Reflect on any nonverbal cues, such as crossed arms or sighs, that suggested that they felt unheard. Now, let's look at the impact each had on your relationship. Positive impact could be when you practice compassionate listening, did it strengthen your connection? Did it create a sense of trust and safety in the relationship? Write about how these moments fostered a deeper bond. Negative impact. Consider instances where your fixing behavior caused a strain. Did it lead to distance or frustration? Explore how your desire to fix problems might have affected your connection over time. Now let's tune into our own feelings in step 3. While listening compassionately, how did it feel to simply listen without the urge to fix? Did you feel more connected and more relaxed? While fixing, how did you feel when you were trying to fix things? Did it create anxiety or frustration? Jot down any emotions that arose during these moments. In step 4, we reflect on lessons learned. What insights can you glean about your listening habits? Are there patterns in your behavior that you notice? Identify any specific triggers that lead you to adopt a fixing mindset and consider how you might respond differently in the future. By taking time to analyze these aspects, you'll gain a clearer understanding of how your listening style affects both you and others. This awareness is crucial for fostering healthy interactions and enhancing your ability to connect with those around you. With this knowledge, you can move forward with a commitment to embrace compassionate listening in all your future conversations. Step 3 will be create a plan for compassionate listening. Now it's time to outline specific steps you can take to shift from a fixer mindset to a more compassionate listening role. How can you practice active listening and truly understand someone's perspective before jumping to solution? What cues can you look at to determine when someone just needs to be heard rather than fixed? How will you communicate your willingness to support them without taking over their problem solving? Write down your plan and commit to trying these new approaches in your interactions. A practice that I do in my own personal life is asking someone if they are looking for advice, wanting me to listen, or if they want me to fuss about it with them. This helps me know who I need to be for them in that moment and what would support them best. As you embark on this journey of self-discovery and reflection, remember that every moment of compassionate listening is an opportunity to connect more deeply with yourself and others. Embrace the understanding that you have the power to foster empathy, trust, and growth in your relationships. By choosing to listen with an open heart and mind, you not only uplift those around you, but also contribute to a more compassionate world. Let this practice illuminate your path, reminding you that every effort to be present and understanding is a step towards creating a harmonious and loving community. May you be well, may you find peace, may you feel blessed, and may you be whole.
If this exercise spoke to your heart, consider deepening your journey by joining us on Patreon. As a member of the Be Your Soul community, you'll enjoy exclusive access to content that explores the energy system, fosters spiritual growth, and offers practical insights for everyday life. By becoming a patron, you not only support our work, but also unlock valuable resources to help you fully be your soul. For easy access to our Patreon, podcast episodes, YouTube channel, and more, visit our website at www.beyoursoul.org.